award-winning Tennessee Wildcast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee Wildcast. We're glad you're tuning in. We thank you for watching and for listening. It's going to be a great show, Don.
It is, yeah.
I'm excited. Today is all about sturgeon and the reintroduction of sturgeon, the kind of sturgeon program.
Right.
But before we dive in, do you want to
do
a shout out?
Shout out to a radio partner, WOKI, right there in Knoxville. 98.7 on the dial, and we are on Saturday afternoons at 1:30. So for all those that coming back out of the woods or just slept in, hey, you can tune us in the middle of the afternoon.
Or if you're on the boat fishing late afternoon.
Heck yeah.
Coming off from an early fishing trip.
Uh-huh.
You know, the last show we mentioned a new time slot for a radio.
Right in Memphis, yeah,
afternoon.
10:30.
Yeah, or kind of mid-morning, I guess. But these later times I think are great.
Yeah.
For those folks who like to get out real early and want to catch us later. So if you're in Memphis and you're in Knoxville, tune us in.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. Well, today we have Brandon Simcox with us. He's our Rivers and Streams Program Coordinator. He's right upstairs here, but we don't cross paths enough. I'm glad you're here with us today. And
glad to be here.
Looking forward to talking sturgeon. Let's just jump in with an introduction. I mean, you've been on the show before, but I'm sure some folks are maybe haven't met you or seen the show that you were on in the past, talking trout a lot of times.
Yeah.
But now we're going to talk sturgeon. But go ahead, jump in. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So it's been a while. So I'm the Rivers and Streams Program coordinator with the agency. I work with our regional staff in the Rivers and Streams Program, doing anything from trout to stream stuff, to smallmouth bass, muskie, sturgeon work. So it varies. Honestly, every day I come in, I honestly don't know what I'm getting into.
Yeah, it's every day is an adventure. So obviously you love fishing, you love fish. That's your background. You also love to hunt, right?
Yep. So I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. Grew up hunting and fishing public lands that TWA managed. I grew up hunting Wolf River, WMA.
Awesome.
Hunted like Chickasaw State Forest. Grew up fishing some of the Herb Parsons State Lakes and going to the trout stockings. It's pretty cool that that now I'm part of that and part of managing some of those programs within the agency. It's pretty awesome.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. So Memphis area native.
So you met a few trout trucks out there.
Yeah. I used to go to Cameron Brown Park in Germantown and go fish for trout. And
nice.
It's like a high school kid. And
that's awesome.
It was good, but went to University of Tennessee, got my undergrad degree in wildlife and fisheries management, went on to get my master's at Auburn University, then kind of worked all over the country. I worked out west for a while, worked in the Smokies for a little bit, worked in Florida as a fisheries biologist doing some coastal river work, and then I was very fortunate enough to get the opportunity to get a job with TWA and move back to my home state.
Back home.
And I can say that I'm in my dream job. Like I'm very fortunate.
I bet.
Very fortunate.
Cool. That's cool. That's awesome. And a recent new family member, right?
Yep. Got a little baby girl.
How long ago has that been?
She is 19 months
19
already.
months, all right.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Well, you'll have her out there fishing before too long, if not already.
Yeah, she's been out a few times. She's still a little afraid of the fish right now.
Well, you can bait the hook and let her cast.
Yeah.
That's fun. Awesome. Well, today is all about sturgeon, and we were talking before. I don't know that we've had a sturgeon show, and if we have, it's been so far back. Episode, we're in 300s now, so it's been so far back I can't remember.
Right.
Tell folks what a sturgeon is. Is it a dinosaur?
It honestly is. It is a living fossil. It was in the fossil record back when the dinosaurs were around. If you haven't seen one, they're picture this kind of long torpedo-shaped looking fish, kind of a leathery looking skin. They don't have like traditional fish scales you'd think like on a bass or a bluegill or something like that. Kind of brown in color with a row along the side, each side of like these bony plates, scutes, and then also along the back. Like I said, kind of brown on top, kind of a whitish belly. But they are a living fossil, probably one of the oldest fish species in Tennessee. So they're very, very cool, very unique fish for sure.
And they can be huge, up to 8 foot, 300 pounds.
They kind of have a rubbery feel too.
They do,
if
yeah.
you have been able to handle, on putting them out there, that kind of thing. Helping.
I haven't had a chance to do that, Don.
Oh, really? Yeah.
We'll have to get you out sampling.
We need to do that.
Yeah.
I need to release a few.
Yeah, so they can get huge. Yeah, in the range, they've been recorded up to 8 foot, 300 pounds. They're really long-lived fish. So males, they live anywhere 50, 55, 60 years. But the females have been recorded over 100 years old.
Oh, man.
Wow. So they are very long-lived fish. Some of this work we're doing now, they're going to, the fish we're putting out now are going to outlive any of the work that I'm doing or outlive me. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Cool to
that's
think about.
awesome. That's awesome.
They are kind of slow starting, though, aren't they? It takes them a while to mature to the point where they can reproduce.
They do, yeah. So it takes anywhere between 15 to 20 years before they're old enough to even be able to spawn yet. So it's very slow going for them, which makes them pretty susceptible to issues that can help or that really impact their populations.
Yeah.
And so before we started, I mentioned it was reintroduction. We were going to talk about the reintroduction of the sturgeon because at one point they kind of got over harvested, fished out, and they're native to Tennessee, but we're having to work on that.
Yeah, so really back in the day, they were unregulated species. They when
like a lot of species.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
When the Game and Fish Commission was formed in 49, there was no size limit, no creel limit, so there was a lot of harvest that was going on recreationally, commercially, people for meat, for roe, for caviar. And so they were kind of taking a beating that way, but also prior to the Clean Water Act in 72, water quality was really poor on our rivers. And then also during that time, dams were being constructed all up and down the Tennessee and Cumberland River system.
Change the structure a little bit.
Yep, so it fragments habitat, kind of covers up some of their spawning areas, impacts their ability to move up and down the rivers, but also those dams were creating water quality issues as well. So it kind of is this all-on approach on a fish that takes a long time to spawn and lives really long. And so we saw from some of the documents that we can find, in the 70s was really the last recorded lake sturgeon that we saw in Tennessee, and it was discovered in a fish kill due to pollution here in Nashville. And so that was kind of the end. They were essentially wiped out of the state of Tennessee at that point.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about, that you can wipe out a species like that with just fishing and overharvest. They're hard to catch, though.
They can be, yeah.
I mean, depending on methods, yeah.
Yep, they can be. And it's interesting, too, talking to a lot of some of the old-timers, we'll be out sampling and stuff, and they'll be like, oh, man, sturgeon, we used to see sturgeon all the time way back in the day. And then, they did. They blinked out.
Yeah.
So...
Well, I'm going down my list here. I had a few questions that we wanted to touch on today, but since I mentioned hard to catch, in Tennessee, it's a catch and release program, right now.
It is.
And you're not supposed to target them.
Right.
So explain that to folks and let them know that before we dive even deeper.
Yeah, so sturgeon were given protection under our state threatened and endangered species list. They were listed as endangered, which automatically puts protections on them. You can't harvest them, you can't target them, harass them, anything like that. So that gave protection to them, and so since the 70s or so, when that list was created, they've kind of been protected in that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you catch one,
but occasionally,
it happens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. We get a lot of people that they're sauger fishermen or cat fishermen that do catch them. Not necessarily targeting them, but they're still catching them.
And so we do have a certificate that we will send you if you report your harvest, because we want to know about it, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
You guys want to know.
We definitely want to know. That information's been really helpful for the program and for helping us learn more about these fish and kind of seeing some changes. So, so you can submit that information on our website. You can call an office or email and give us that information, send us a picture, location, size of fish, send it to us, and we'll send you a awesome certificate with essentially it's a Joseph Tomalleri, a really famous fish artist, has allowed us to use his image of a lake sturgeon on it. We'll send that to you for no cost.
Yep. All right. As long as you put that fish back, right?
Yeah, you got to release it.
You got to release it.
Yeah, we recommend just taking a quick picture of it and then releasing it.
Yeah, right back in.
Yeah,
that's awesome. All right, so let's jump back. Recovery here in Tennessee. Around the late 90s or the 90s time, y'all formed this working group, right? It's a lot of partners coming together to...
Yep. So really, even prior to that, there were some things that were really integral that happened to really set the foundation for restoration in Tennessee.
Okay.
So, one, we had the Clean Water Act happen in the early 70s. That started cleaning up pollution. Entities like TVA started forming internal policies to improve water quality below the dams. So, and we had these protections on the fish for no harvest. So all of a sudden, we were starting to get things kind of built back up to where the habitat and the protections were out there, that there was a chance that we could begin restoring these species back to the state. And so in 92, there was a kind of experimental stocking done on the Upper Clinch River. There's a few thousand fish that were put in. There was a little bit of follow-up there, but nothing really gained too much traction from that. So in 1998, TWRA, Fish and Wildlife Service, TVA, several other partners, the aquarium, all came together and formed it started as the Tennessee Lake Sturgeon Working Group, and then it's expanded to the Southeastern Lake Sturgeon Working Group. So all these partners have come together, focused on solely restoration of lake sturgeon back into the Tennessee and Cumberland watershed.
Right.
Awesome. And then from there, the Tennessee River and the Cumberland systems have seen a lot of fish, right?
Yep. So we began stocking the Tennessee River and primarily focused on the upper Tennessee, so like Fort Loudon Reservoir, the Holston, the French Broad rivers. In 2000, that's when everything started ramping up for a focused task of restoring them back to the state. And then we picked up on the Cumberland in 2006, started stocking the Cumberland for restoration.
Awesome. One thing that popped in my head when we started talking here is, they disappeared, and then we're trying to bring them back. Was there a certain fish that helped identify better waters, or like this fish? Is a sturgeon similar to any other fish that we have that you could say, oh, this fish is doing well here, this would be a good place to reintroduce it? I may be putting you on the spot there.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Such a unique fish.
They are unique, and they're unique. Very unique to Tennessee. We have a couple other sturgeon species, in the Mississippi River primarily.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know in those early talks of really what kind of sparked that and got the ball rolling. But they are. I mean, the TWRA, our mission is to conserve, protect, enhance these fish populations, and lake sturgeon were an important part of Tennessee, the Tennessee River, the Cumberland watershed. So, it really met our mission, Fish and Wildlife Service mission, to bring these fish back.
Yeah, cool. I just think, they swim so deep, and I think of a paddlefish, and even catfish are down there with them.
Right.
It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, they occupy a lot of the similar habitats, like paddlefish, and like I said, catfishermen catch a lot of them. Ended up being a big majority of the anglers that report.
Okay.
I remember it well when the French Broad River release, or one of them.
Yeah.
I was there with the Tennessee's Wild Side.
Yeah.
TV show. That was I think that was season 1. That was one of the more exciting things. Got to do that year.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Not to age you, I remember watching those shows as a kid.
Yeah.
I was a lot more closer to a kid age at that point too. Yeah. I understand.
Fewer gray hairs.
Yeah, for sure.
And more hair, maybe not. Yeah. I'm right there with you.
I didn't want to go there, but
So, where do these fish come from? So they've disappeared. So how do we bring them back?
Yeah, so one of our partners is actually the state of Wisconsin. So Fish and Wildlife Service really takes the lead on this part, where they go up in the spring when the lake sturgeon are spawning on the rivers up there. They go work with the state. They actually spawn the lake sturgeon right there on the river and return them. And then they bring all the eggs back to the Fish and Wildlife Service hatchery in Georgia.
Okay.
They get those, and then they disperse them to multiple Fish and Wildlife Service hatcheries all across the Southeast, as well as the Tennessee Aquarium raises fish for us as well. So they'll raise those. That happens in the spring, and by like September, October, they're big enough. They're about 5 inches that we begin stocking them out as water temperatures start to cool on the reservoirs. And then, then they're stocked at about 6 inches out and all across, really from like the French Broad, the Holston, Fort Loudon, down to Chickamauga now, and then on the Cumberland, Cordell Hole, down all the way down to Barkley. We stock fish.
Would those 5-inch fish have a particular predator that
that's exactly what the scoot's on their body for. If you ever catch one, if you ever catch one, I mean, the little ones especially, those scoots that are on the side, those bony plates, have tips on them, and they're pretty sharp.
Oh, neat.
So I'm sure there are some predators on them, but those scoots protect those fish. A bass comes up and bites on them. They're biting on a hard, bony, spiky plate, essentially. But as as sturgeon grow, those scoots wear down. There's less need for any kind of protection at that point. So,
wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So their size kind of takes over at that point.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And the scoots, you mentioned that earlier. That's part of their scales, their body. I guess they don't have scales, right?
They do, but
some.
But yes, but the scoots are essentially a large-looking scale going down the side of each body, or side of the body, and then on the back. And they're there for protection of that.
It kind of puts you back in the prehistoric kind of
for sure
range when you see those like a Stegosaurus or something.
Yeah,
it would have those plates too.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Well, and you use those for markings, right?
Yeah, they're important. So
for the biology side of things.
Yeah, so we want to learn about growth and survival and all that kind of information. And so one of the ways that we know what year those fish were stocked to know about growth rates and things like that is we'll remove a pair of scoots on either side of the fish, and we've got kind of a template of like, okay, this year you're going to move the first and second on the left, and so we know if we catch that fish in the future, it's a 2022 fish or something like that.
Yeah.
And so then we can look and start building these, do the math and the modeling and look at growth curves and survival and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's neat because you can clear like fin clippings. Y'all do that too on other fish and different things. So it's this one way that y'all can mark them and know.
Right.
And if a fisherman catches it, you see that in an image, a photo.
Yeah, I definitely every image that comes in, I'm trying to zoom in just to see. But we use a lot of that when we go out and do our sampling. That's one of the main things that we're paying attention to. It's one of the key pieces that we want to look at is see how old this fish is.
Hey, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Brandon Simcox, and he's Rivers and Streams Program Coordinator with TWRA. So anyway, we're talking sturgeon here.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And I'm coming up to my monitoring questions. We've kind of got to that point. Y'all are running trot lines, and that's probably your main method of catching these fish and sampling them, because you have to do some work on them. You can't just release them and say, oh, they're out there now.
Yeah. If we just did that, we would never really know what was going on, if anything was a success or not. And so we do. We run trot lines. We sample in the late fall, early winter. We kind of saw that these fish, in that time frame, they kind of move back and start congregating in some of the deeper holes along the main stems of the river. So they come a little bit more easily targetable, I guess. And we use trot lines. So what we're doing is we'll run a 400-foot long trot line in the reservoirs. We typically set on the edge of the channel where the marker buoys are for the main river. We'll put a buoy out, and we run that 400-foot of line out. Has 50 hooks on it. Out across the channel, really targeting humps in the bottom, changes in the contours, real deep holes, things like that, where they're kind of known locations. And honestly, some of the angler information that comes in from the reports have really helped dictate where, there's a lot of fish coming from here. Let's go check it out, set lines during sampling, and we end up catching fish. So
yeah, that's a lot of bait in there. 50 hooks.
it is, and so that's 50 hooks, but we run 8 lines a day too, and that's per boat.
Wow.
And so it ends up being 400 hooks out a day.
Wow.
During that, that's per boat, and then. Like I said, we have partners. So Fish and Wildlife Service brings boats up, and they'll run lines. The University of Tennessee helps out; they're running lines as well. So yeah, it goes. There's a lot of effort happening, in a couple weeks of the year to really catch these fish.
Is there any other technology y'all use out there? I know, whether it's a side scan, things that people use for fishing.
Yeah,
they can see those fish. Does that help at all?
So we use side scan a lot to look at bottom contours and see what's on the bottom. We don't really see them.
Gotcha.
Down there. I'm sure you could use the forward facing sonar that's so big now and see. I bet you could see some fish moving around down there. But primarily we've honed in on these spots that we know these fish are at, and that's through various past research projects, some of the angler stuff. So we kind of know where to get them.
Mm-hmm. And that helps. You got to target them best you can and be able to.
Yep.
And if you've caught those fish before, you're tagging them in some of the cases, right? Other than the scoot stuff, are you pit tagging them or any kind of
so
like
when we catch a fish during our sampling, we'll weigh and measure the fish. We looked at scoots to see the age, and then we'll also scan them for a tag like you would put in your dog or cat. It's about the size of a grain of rice. Mm-hmm. So we'll scan them. If they don't have one, we'll put a tag in them. That way, if we ever capture that fish in the future, we'll know exactly where we caught it, how big it was, all that kind of information, which is important. We can look at movement. We can look at finer tuning our growth rates, and there's a lot of information we get from that. We take fin clips as well just to get genetic information to ensure that we want to make sure that we're matching the genetics of the source population, that we're not creating this bottleneck of only a few, essentially siblings out there, because then the population wouldn't be healthy. We wouldn't have very much genetic integrity, and the population would likely end up not being very healthy. So we do that as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, through 2021, you've had around 500 and something captured on Tennessee River.
Yeah, so that number's actually gone up. Yeah, so this year we caught 40 fish this year on the Tennessee system.
Okay.
And so we're close to about 600 fish actually now, captured through Fish and Wildlife Service, TWRA, all the partners.
Right.
On the Cumberland River, we're over 100 now, or about 120. We caught 20 on Old Hickory this year. And so, we continue to catch fish every year. We catch fish of all age classes, all sizes. So that tells us that things are going well. There's fish that are stocking, they're surviving, they're growing. It's encouraging for sure. And we catch of the fish we catch, we don't catch many that had the tags in them from previous recaptures. Good. So that tells us that there's a lot of sturgeon, out there, and so which is good for the population.
And are you catching what you think are new fish that weren't stocked?
No, not yet.
Okay.
So
not hit that age yet, right?
No,
it takes them a long time to reproduce.
Right. So we're just now, we're hitting the spot to where we could see something in a year. We thought we were getting some reports of some interesting information last year, and again, going back to the angler stuff, that came from anglers that caught them. We had 2 fish caught up the Hiwassee River up at the Appalachian Powerhouse. That's trout water up there, essentially. And, the reports from those anglers were, hey, this fish, I saw it out there in the middle of the river. It was porpoise. It was coming out of the water, reaching. Oh, wow. That's spawning. That's essentially spawning behavior.
Oh, okay.
And then about a week later, we got another report from an angler up there that I guess there's a little side creek or side channel, and he saw the sturgeon up in that side channel, up in a shallow area. It was by itself, but and those reports are 40 plus miles from the nearest detection that we've ever had or record of them. So they made a run last year, but like I said, we're just now getting to that 20-year threshold, and one of the things with sturgeon is they don't necessarily spawn every year like a lot of fish do. So a sturgeon might spawn at 24 years, and it might be another couple years before that fish ever spawns again. So right now, like I said, we're just now. It's an exciting time, but we're just now getting to the point to where we might see something.
So a 20-year-old fish, what physically about what size would that be, Brennan?
So those fish are probably pushing, I would say, 5 foot, 6 foot long, maybe. The biggest fish that we've captured in sampling has been around that, so 60 inches, maybe a little bigger, and 50-pound range.
Okay.
And it's when I talk to anglers a lot in the field, and they talk about how big they are, I'm like, yeah, those are still babies. Though. They are literally babies. They're not even old enough to spawn yet. That's how young they are in sturgeon age.
Yeah, some monsters down there.
Yeah.
Well, I think about the work y'all do. Y'all are putting out 400 hooks per boat, and you catch a very small number of fish.
Yeah,
they're hard to catch.
They are.
But that's a lot of work for you guys. Y'all are putting the hours in.
It is. Those are full days, and often it literally never ceases to fail. That we might be in the early, that late fall, early winter, and all of a sudden you get a 60-degree week, and you're like, oh man, next week we're scheduled to sample, and then a snowstorm blows in, or rain, or something like that. It's always the worst conditions ever.
Yeah.
That's how it was this year. It literally rained all week, and it was 30 degrees, but. It's probably the most exciting thing that I've done in my fisheries career is going sturgeon sampling and pulling up those trot lines. And when you actually you start feeling one pulling on there that you can tell. We catch catfish and some other species on the line as well, but you can know it's a sturgeon when it starts really pulling and you're kind of fighting it. It's so exciting every time. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're going to run out of time, so. Just real quick, you've kind of touched on it, the success.
We haven't seen the natural reproduction, but that's one of the success criteria is we want to see the natural reproduction. We want to see fish of all ages. We've got a lot of work we're still planning on doing. We're going to continue stocking for the foreseeable future for sure. And the ultimate goal, is to have a population that's healthy, self-sustaining, that maybe ultimately one day can be a sport fishing opportunity for Tennessee anglers.
Yeah. Awesome. That would be cool. So just to reiterate, it's catch and release right now.
Catch and release, yeah.
So, but take a picture, put it back in the water, send it to us.
Let us know about it.
Yeah, we have a web page on the web, dedicated on the website, so you can go on the website and explore around, or honestly, you can just go to a Google and type in lake sturgeon and TWRA, and it'll be one of the first things that pop up.
Yeah, there you go.
Send us the report. There's a form on there. There's 3 different options, but definitely go on the form, click that, fill out the information, and send that to us.
That's good. That's the information we really need, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a way that the fishermen, the sportsmen can help. You know?
For sure.
You want to be involved,
does.
volunteer? Yeah.
Yes, it does. Trust me.
Yeah, it's fun volunteering there. Just go fishing. If you catch one, send us a picture.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Brandon, I appreciate you coming in. It's been a while. I'm glad you made the trip down here. It's a short elevator ride, but we'll make it happen more often.
For sure.
Don, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of great information today.
Yeah.
This is Tennessee Wildcast. Keep tuning in, keep coming back, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee Wildcast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.